It sounds
You
like
can
you sound
stop,
like
actually.
Angela. With respect, you sound like a troll. You sound like a social media troll. Everything you can point
Well,
out that's
that's very
incorrect.
rude. You
It's
don't
not.
call someone a dog with respect. That's
No,
without respect.
no.
So
It is with respect. It is
let
with
me talk
respect.
about.
What happens when someone who's made trolling their full-time career suddenly gets called out for exactly what they are? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into one of the most satisfying moments of internet justice you'll ever witness. This is the story of Angela Levin, a woman who turned trolling Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex into an art form until someone finally held up a mirror and showed her the truth. And let me tell you, her reaction was absolutely priceless. Let's start from the beginning. Angela Levin isn't just your average internet troll throwing occasional shade from behind a keyboard. Oh no, this woman has elevated trolling to unprecedented levels of dedication. We're talking about someone who has made targeting the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, particularly Meghan, her life's mission. Picture this. From the moment she wakes up to the second her head hits the pillow, Angela Levin is plotting her next attack on the Sussexes, Monday through Sunday, sunrise to sunset. There's no break, no vacation days, no sick leave from her self-appointed job as Chief Sussex tormentor. It's honestly impressive in the most disturbing way possible. The sheer commitment required for this level of sustained harassment is mind-boggling. Most people struggle to maintain a workout routine for more than a few weeks, but Angela, she's maintained this relentless campaign for years. Every social media post, every interview, every public appearance, it's all ammunition in her endless war against Harry and Meghan. But here's where it gets interesting. Angela didn't just troll occasionally when the mood struck her. This was systematic, calculated, and absolutely ruthless. The intensity of her attacks wasn't just frequent, it was ferocious. She breathed trolling, lived trolling, and essentially became the human embodiment of everything toxic about online harassment culture. Think about the psychology behind this for a moment. What kind of person dedicates their entire existence to tearing down two people they've never personally met? What drives someone to make another person's misery their raison d'etre? Angela Levin had made trolling not just her hobby, not just her side hustle, but her entire identity. But then something beautiful happened. Someone finally had the courage to do what we've all been thinking. In a moment that will go down in internet history, someone looked Angela Levin directly in the eye and said those three little words that would change everything. "You are the troll, Angela." Can you imagine the shock? Here's a woman who had spent years dishing out criticism, hiding behind the facade of being a commentator or royal expert, suddenly being confronted with the unvarnished truth about what she really was. The emperor had no clothes, and someone finally pointed it out. The confrontation was nothing short of spectacular. Angela, this seasoned veteran of verbal warfare, this woman who had made a career out of cutting remarks and savage takedowns, was completely unprepared for someone to turn the tables on her. She had been living in a glass house, hurling stones with reckless abandon, never considering that someone might pick up a rock and throw it back. And then came the tears. Oh, the glorious, cathartic tears. Angela Levin, the woman who had built her entire persona around being tough, unflappable, and ruthlessly critical, completely broke down. The mask slipped, and underneath all that bravado was just another person who couldn't handle being on the receiving end of what she'd been dishing out for years. The vulnerability was startling. Gone was the confident commentator, replaced by someone grappling with an uncomfortable truth about themselves. The tears weren't just from being called out, they were from years of suppressed recognition finally bubbling to the surface. Deep down, she had always known what she was, but hearing it said out loud made it real in a way she wasn't prepared for. But here's the thing about bullies. They rarely go down without a fight. Even through the tears, Angela was in full denial mode. She might have been crying, but she wasn't conceding. The same defiant spirit that had fueled years of trolling now manifested as stubborn refusal to accept this new reality about herself. It was a masterclass in human psychology playing out in real time. We were watching someone's entire self-concept crumble and rebuild itself in a matter of moments. The denial, the tears, the desperate clinging to old patterns. It was all there, raw and unfiltered. The internet, as you might expect, had thoughts, and boy, were they unanimous. The response was swift, decisive, and absolutely brutal in the best possible way. Social media exploded with praise for the brave soul who had finally said what everyone was thinking. The hashtag #HashTrollNoMore started trending worldwide as people from every corner of the globe joined the conversation. Finally, someone had given voice to what millions had been feeling. The relief was palpable. It was like watching the neighborhood bully finally get what was coming to them after years of terrorizing everyone else. People were practically throwing virtual parties in the comments sections. But the criticism for Angela was equally intense. The public wasn't buying her victim act for a second. They saw right through the tears to what this really was, a desperate attempt to flip the script and make herself the injured party. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Here was someone who had made a career out of causing emotional distress to others, now upset because the tables had turned. Social media users were particularly unforgiving. They pointed out that these weren't tears of remorse. These were tears of frustration at being caught. Some even suggested that Angela wasn't crying for herself, but for the loss of the comfortable mask she'd been wearing for so long. The mask of respectability that had allowed her to package her trolling as legitimate commentary. But let's zoom out for a moment, because this story is about more than just one person's comeuppance. Angela Levin's story is a mirror reflecting a much larger problem in our digital age, the normalization of online harassment disguised as commentary. Trolling isn't harmless fun, it's digital bullying with real-world consequences. When we talk about the constant barrage of negativity that people like Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex face, we're not talking about constructive criticism or legitimate journalistic scrutiny. We're talking about sustained harassment designed to cause psychological harm. Imagine being in their shoes for just one day. Every morning you wake up to hundreds, sometimes thousands of messages designed to make you feel worthless, attacked, and isolated. The mental health implications are staggering. We're talking about anxiety, depression, and in extreme cases, thoughts of self-harm. This isn't theoretical. These are documented consequences of sustained online harassment. Angela Levin's behavior represents the worst of our online culture. The idea that hiding behind a screen gives you permission to abandon basic human decency. She turned cruelty into content and harassment into a career. But when someone finally held up that mirror, she couldn't handle seeing her own reflection. The beautiful irony here is that by experiencing just a fraction of what she'd put others through, Angela got a taste of her own medicine, and apparently it was too bitter to swallow. So what does this mean for Angela Levin's future? Well, in a world where credibility is currency, her account just went bankrupt. When your entire career is built on commentary and opinion, being exposed as a troll doesn't just damage your reputation. It destroys the foundation of everything you've built. Think about it from a business perspective. Would you trust the analysis of someone who's been exposed as operating in bad faith? Would you value the opinion of someone whose primary motivation seems to be causing harm rather than seeking truth? The answer, for most reasonable people, is a resounding no. The public has spoken and their verdict is clear. Angela Levin is not the victim she's trying to portray herself as. The tears, the denial, the desperate attempts to maintain her facade, none of it is working. People see right through it because, frankly, we've all been waiting for this moment. This is bigger than just one confrontation. This represents a shift in how we deal with online toxicity. People are getting tired of bullies hiding behind the guise of commentary or criticism. We're becoming more sophisticated in our ability to recognize harassment for what it is, regardless of how it's packaged. Angela Levin's story serves as a powerful reminder that the internet isn't a consequence-free zone. The things you say and do online have real impacts on real people. And eventually those consequences have a way of finding their way back to you. For years, Angela operated under the assumption that she could dish it out without ever having to take it. She built her entire identity around being the critic, never the critiqued, but that protection was always an illusion, and illusions have a way of shattering at the most inconvenient moments. The truth, as they say, has a way of coming out. And in Angela's case, when it finally did, it came with tears, denial, and a very public reckoning that will follow her for the rest of her career. As we wrap up this story, we're left with some fascinating questions. Will this be a turning point for Angela Levin? Will she use this moment of uncomfortable truth to reflect on her behavior and make changes? Or will she double down and continue on the same destructive path? History suggests that people this invested in their toxic patterns rarely change overnight. But stranger things have happened. Maybe, just maybe, this public humiliation will serve as the wake-up call she desperately needed. What we do know is that this moment represents something larger, a collective enough is enough. from people who are tired of watching harassment masquerade as commentary. It's a reminder that accountability, even in the digital age, is still possible. The court of public opinion has rendered its verdict on Angela Levin, and it's not favourable. Whether she chooses to learn from this experience or continue down her current path will ultimately determine what comes next in her story. But for now, for this moment, justice feels pretty sweet. Sometimes the troll gets what's coming to them, and when they do, the internet is watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown of internet drama and social justice, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss when we serve up the latest tea. And hey, if this content brought you as much joy as it brought me to research and present, consider showing your support with a super thanks. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to keep bringing you the content you love.